Hey everybody, welcome to our pre-Rosh Hashanah shiur. First of all, before we start, our shiur is sponsored by Moshe ben Abraham, Moshe Melamed, for the zchut of him and his wife and his kids. Hashem yivei olam b'shana tova u'metuka, bracha, revacha, tzlacha, parnasa tova, shefa, yeshua gadol lo b'kol metuches v'noai. And also another one of our sponsors, anonymous sponsors, you should have a sweet new year, lebracha, revacha, tzlacha, shana tova u'metuka, v'kol yeshua l'chein v'noai. Amen. Amen. Also, Yirun Yishmat Shlomo ben Shifra, Ruach Hashem tenichel b'gan Eden. Amen. Very special guy, his father. He's a very good sponsor of our shiurim. So, may his father have it. Even Neshama, his 1 year is coming up this Sunday. Okay, today we're going to do two things, Brother Hashem Yitbarach. Number one, we're going to do Tefillah la Parnasa, which is the book which I told you guys to open in your books. We all know on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we daven for Parnasa. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys also do it? Tefillah la Parnasa, le David at the end of the Tefillah in Rosh Hashanah. There's a special Mizmor Tehillim, and then we open up the Heichal before Aleinu L'Shabbat. You guys do it? They do it? Maybe not all of them. Now, do you guys do it?
You read 7 times.
No. At the end of Aravit, Shacharit, and Mincha. Huh? It's in the Rav Yaakov Koppel. Huh?
Probably
you say.
That we do it.
Right. So Sfaradim for sure do it. For sure, I think Breslovers for sure do it. But there is a special minhag that we have based on the Ari Kadosh in Pri Etz HaChaim. Rabbi Chaim Vital brings down that in Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, there's a special sigula to say chapter of Tehillim, LeDavid Mizmor LaHashem Ha'aretz Umlo'ah. We all say this chapter of Tehillim every Sunday in the Shir Shel Yom. I forgot the number of the Tehillim. Is it 22? Am I right? Okay, so take a Tehillim, see if it's 22, just till I continue. It's for sure not 27, because that's the David Hashem Uri V'ishi. We say that after Shachari for 40 days, right? Huh? They give him a Tehillim over there. I believe it's chapter 22 or 23, something like that. Maybe 24 even. Why not all the 20s? Huh? It's not 22. The David Hashem Ha'aretz Umlo'ah. 23? Okay, you let me know. So there's a special sigula from the Rav Chaim Vital to say this chapter of Tehillim, and it's sold for a lot of money. Every single 24. We said 22, 23, 24. We get 3 strikes. This is chapter 24 of Tehillim. We say it also every Sunday in the Shir Shel Yom. And in the Rav Chaim Vital Sefer, Pri Etz HaChaim, not in Shara Kavanot, in Pri Etz HaChaim, it says whoever says this on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, in Aravit, Shacharit, and then at the end of Musaf, not in Mincha, and if he's home and he's up early in the morning, if he says it after he hears the rooster crow in the morning, or roost, I don't know how you say it, crow, roost, muftach lo, it's promised him, shelo yichsar lo mezonotav, that all that year, it's promised to him, he'll have the money that he needs. Now, what does that mean? He'll have the money that he needs. Not that he's going to have money to buy a new Rolex. That's not what it means. He'll have the money that he needs. Maybe for some people, they think that's what they need. Money that he needs means they'll have the money not to be in debt, not to be borrowing money from people. He'll always have food on the table. He won't worry where his next meal comes from. That's what it means. Money that he needs. That's a big promise. So because why? There's a story in the Gemara. Rabbi Chia, who was a big Tana, very big Tana, student of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. You guys all know him, right? He had a very good wife, right? His wife was in labor for 2 months. 2 months, the Gemara says. She had twins, and one of the twins she gave birth to at 7 months, and the other one wouldn't come out. She thought she was gonna die basically for 2 months. I don't know if there's ever such a case recorded before in history, But the Gemara brings down that she was in labor for so long. After she gave birth to her second child, the other twin, she named him Yehuda and Chizkiah. She made up a rumor that her kids are mamzerim. She became crazy in the head. She made up a rumor that her kids are not her husband. And who's her husband? Rabbi Chia, the biggest Tanah, the student of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And Rabbi Chia still said, you have to love your wife and respect your wife. He didn't divorce her. He said you just got a little, how you call it, postpartum depression. So back then they also called it postpartum depression, but just not the postpartum part. They still call it depression. And he still respected her and loved her and everything was good. The Gemara once says a story that two beggars come to the door, and his wife says to them, listen, my husband is eating right now. Come back another time. Don't come back right now. Don't mess with the host in the middle of his meal. And Rabbi Chia, listening from the door, he says, let them in. So she says, why? It's not respectful, it's not manners. She says, give them kesef. Give them from the table. Why? Back then it was it was not unusual to let aniyim come join the meal in the middle of the table. So we're not used to these things these days. I don't know how it was in 50, 70, 80, 90 years ago in Bukhara or in other places in the world, but back then people would come to the door, they would know what time is evening meal, and you would open the door and tell them, join my meal. Today it's not like it. Today you give tzedakah. When you give tzedakah, first you give tzedakah to the people who are closest to you. If you want to know how to give charity in your life, you never ever give charity to a person who's far away from you first. First you find a family member that needs help. Whether it's their fault or not their fault, or whether they did bad decisions in their life. First you give charity to your family members. And then if you have extra, you give to your community members. And then after the community, you give to your city. After your city, your country. Then after your country, you could give to overseas. Except for tzedakah la'aniyei Eretz Yisrael. Tzedakah for the aniyim of Eretz Yisrael always comes first, except for your family members. Except for your family members. A person has a family member who needs tzedakah, first him. He's always the first priority. Then aniyei Eretz Yisrael. Okay? That's the hierarchy of tzedakah. It's halakha. So therefore, Rabbi Chia said, so back then, how did tzedakah used to work? It's in the Zohar, it's written, there's 10 things you need to do on the table. One of those things is you have to have poor people on your table while you eat. Today, people come to knock on if he comes knocking on your table while you eat, you're going to think he's a mental guy and I don't want to say. Starts with a C and ends with a K. Sometimes we use it as a cracker. No pun intended. So therefore, you're not going to invite him to your house, right? You give him some money, some kesef, some tzedakah. But back then it was very important, the Zohar says, to invite them on your table. For example, the Zohar says in Helchot Birkat HaMazon, if a poor person is not eating on your table during the Seudah, which Seudah? Any Seudah, except for one Seudah, which I'm about to tell you, then your table is not complete. Your table is not considered a complete table. Why? You didn't give to the Ani. In Kabbalah, the Ani, in Sod, the Ani is called Sfirat HaYesod. The Sfirat HaYesod, your Brit, is called an Ani. Why is he called an Ani? Because your Yesod, your Brit, is always dead. Unless you're crazy. Most of the time, your Yesod is usually dead, right? Your Brit.
It's sleeping.
It's whatever. You want to call it hibernating? Call it hibernating. But it's I didn't. Okay, you don't like the word dead, but it's sleeping. You know what? All right. But how does it get alive? It needs the koach from all the other parts of your body. It needs the mind to think. It needs the endocrine gland to start pumping those hormones. It needs the blood to start flowing. It needs the vagus nerve because the vagus nerve goes down the whole body and it's a cranial nerve. The whole body needs to start churning, right? It's a big miracle. It's not stama. It's a whole operation over here, right? So therefore, in Kabbalah, the Yesod is called an Ani. Why? It needs the help of everybody else to start working. So in Kabbalah, they say, Rabbi Shimon says in Sod, If you don't have an ani on your table, then the yesod didn't get its sustenance, its shefa. Right? But today, when you're going to invite a poor guy, so what do we do today? There's another word for the yesod in the Zohar. Another word. What is it? An oreach. The guest. Anytime you have a guest in your house, it's like you invited the yesod inside your house. Because everything is the midot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is the attributes of God. So a guest is like the foundation. It's the Brit Milah. So that's why the Zohar says, every time you eat, you need to have a guest. Now, what are you going to do over here? Invite people over? You're going to have to open up a table every time you eat? You're not going to do that. So what do we do today? That's why Avraham Avinu was zocheh to what? Ba'ashem berach et Avraham. God blessed Avraham. Bakol. What's bakol with everything? With the yesod. Avraham was the richest out of all the avot. Right? First he got rich from Paro. Then he got rich from Avimelech. And then he just was fabulously wealthy. Right? Because he was zocheh to bakol. Because he was the Bala Oreach. Right? When Hashem sees that you're Bala Oreach, so he gives you the shefa. But today we don't do that. What do? We give tzedakah. If you open up Sidur HaRashash says, before you eat on the table, give charity. Chidush, yeah, every time you eat, you have a quarter in your pocket, something. Give tzedakah. Guys, don't think just because you give a quarter on the thing, it means nothing. Quarter adds up. Suddenly you see, you got $500 inside the kupa. You buy the Sudah Shalishit, you buy something for the Bet Tzedakah. It's not, look, we have over here, one of our members of our Bet HaKnesset, Ephraim ben Menashe Kohen, he got this for us. He had this idea, he saw this somewhere, but there's a guy who thinks of something, then there's a guy who does it. He saw this, he said, listen, Sudah Shalishit, everybody wants to have a nice Sudah Shalishit. Let's make a kupa. Everybody who has change, put it inside. And every week we open it, we get a nice Sudah Shalishit. You're saving the Bet HaKnesset every single week, $150 to $200. That's another thing they can put inside the bank account. And Baruch Hashem, we won't have to be in a shul that has a rat-infested smell. And one day we could have our own place with our own mikveh and our own thing, and we could, sit like Bnei Adam and grow and have our kids have their own park without having to be chased with a broom. You guys don't see the messages that I get. You guys don't see it. You break this, you break that, this one's falling, this one's coming down. No, Rabotai, I'm not going to bore you with the details over here. But it's a maaseh. The maaseh, that's the yesod. Correct? Now, when is the most important time to give tzedakah or have a guest in your table? Which seudah? Sudah Shalishit? Because it says over here Sudah Shalishit. Nice, but you're thinking outside the box, no pun intended. No, in the 3 festivals. Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. The Zohar Kadosh says, it's a halacha actually, forget about the Zohar. It says, the 3 holidays, you must have guests and you must feed the aniyim. You must. So if you know somebody who can't afford Yom Tov, let's say you don't know anybody. You say, I want to give. Go online. Go on the Chesed Fund. Chicken for Shabbos takes you to Be'ezri, Yad Eliezer. And you donate $100. Before Rosh Hashanah and before Sukkot you have to do it. Yom Kippur nobody eats unless they're sick. Right? But you have to give. Especially in front of the 3 festivals. But there is one holiday you don't have to give. Even if you don't give, the Shekhinah is on your table. What is that? Shabbat. Shabbat. Even if nobody's on your table on Shabbat, the Zohar says it's okay. Shabbat, you're giving to the Ani anyways. Who's the Ani? The Shekhinah itself. God's divine presence itself. God joins you on the table. How do we know God joins you on the table on Shabbat? Every married man should know this. Because if he doesn't sing it on the table, why don't you sing it, right? Why are you just reading it? Eshet Chayil, you see. What does Eshet Chayil mean? A woman of valor who will find, correct? So the truth is, you're not singing it to your wife, and I know King Solomon said it for his mother, but the whole song is set for the divine presence. The divine presence is coming to join you on your table. Your Shabbat table is a very holy place. You shouldn't talk shtusem on it. You shouldn't talk divrei nivela on it. You shouldn't curse on the Shabbat table. You shouldn't have John Ganozi on the Shabbat table. Shabbat table has to be a place that's very pure. Because on that table rests the Shekhinah, God's divine presence. You're giving tzedakah to the God's divine presence. Hashem put himself so down in this world that he's willing to take from you tzedakah, from what he gave you. And then from what you gave him is what he's going to give you back for the next 6 days. So how beautiful you make your Shabbat table, that's what you're going to get for the next 6 days. You guys remember the famous story? The Gemara says, why are people in Bavel rich? What does the Gemara say? Because they respect the Shabbat. The Gemara says, Masechet Shabbat, page 150 something. Why are people in Bavel rich? Because they respect the Shabbat. What does it mean, respect the Shabbat? You guys think it's a joke? You go shopping, you see the nicest thing, say Zeh Lichvot Shabbat. Say it mamash. Remember Rav Zachariah Wallerstein? Hashem should rest his soul in peace. Very big tzaddik he was. He did a lot of things for the Jewish community, especially the Bukhari community. He was a Kohen too. He was Zachariah HaKohen. He once said this in a shiur, and I heard this when I used to listen to shiurim. When I was younger, much younger. I know I'm still young, but even younger. When I was single. He said over there, we used to go to shiurim, not always for the right reasons. So he was there giving a shiur. And he said, every time I'm in a store on Friday, the worker over there thinks I'm crazy because I'm always speaking to myself. And he said, what am I always saying in the store? He said, I'm saying Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. I'm taking that potato, I'm saying Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. As a young kid, I heard that and it inspired me. And ever since then, every time I go shopping on a Friday, even though it's written in the Ari or whatever you want to say, but I heard it from him. L'schuto ya'aman. Every time I go to the shopping, I always say before I go shopping, Zeh Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. Just one difference. He used to say it to himself, I say it out loud. If he thinks I'm crazy, let him already think I'm crazy and everybody else. So when you say it out, when you say Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh, that thing that you're buying becomes Kadosh. So now that we said all that introduction, back to Rabbi Chia. So Rabbi Chia was on the table with his wife. And his wife said to the Ani, don't come to the table. Now you understand why he got angry at her. Because what's the whole point of eating at your table? To invite a poor person to eat with you on the table. So he said to her, why are you kicking him out? But then he told her something even scarier. And I've said this to you guys before, but I'll say it again before Rosh Hashanah. Because if you guys really want to have a happy, sweet New Year, and we're all guilty of a lot of averot, even though we could have not done it, me included, he said, give that man tzedakah. Give him from the table. Let him eat from the table. He said, why? You don't know in the future if your kids will need to eat from the table. And somebody will kick them out of the door. And in the zechut that you're going to feed them from the table, your kids will not be thrown out of the house. The Gemara is very, very important. I'll tell you why. If you learn the Torah, you're not going to know all these things of Midah, Keneged Midah, and everything. There is a book called Ein Yaakov. Everybody here should learn it. If you can't learn Gemara, at least learn Ein Yaakov. That's all the stories of the Talmud. All the things they learn from the Psukim. You have to learn Ein Yaakov. The Ben Ish Chai, guys. Ben Ish Chai was big.
Yes.
One of the best. Ben Ish Chai used to give a shiur after every shacharit, every morning. Not Chok Lisa, not Daf Yomi, nothing. What he used to give a shiur on? Ein Yaakov, stories of the Gemara. From the stories of the Gemara, you learn everything. The Ben Ish Chai HaKadosh says, in the Ein Yaakov, it brings down all the stories. He says over there, one time, Rabbi Chia's son, one of those two sons that was born as a twin, 2 months in labor, their mom was. One of the sons, I believe it was Yehuda. His name was Yehuda. When is a rabbi called Rav in the Gemara? When is he not called a Rav? If he was given smicha, he was called a Rav. If he was not given smicha, it's when a rabbi before him would come put his hands on him, or you would tell them, in the power vested in me, I'm calling you a rabbi. He knows Torah. He doesn't know Torah. The Gemara once says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's grandson, he went off the derech. Any zonah that would charge, let's say $20, they would pay him $40. He was a very, very famous guy. His name was not Rabbi. His name was Yossi. Yosei. Rabbi Shimon, you know Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is? The best. His grandson, off the derech. Not just any off the derech, Casanova. this guy, they were paying him. The Gemara says the story, Messiah Baba Metzia, page 84. The Gemara then says, one day, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who was his father's friend in shul, in Beis Medrash, they used to learn together, he said, how am I going to leave my best friend's son to go off the derech like this? The Nasi of Am Yisrael. I don't know, who's the Nasi? Imagine Benjamin Netanyahu was a religious guy. And Benjamin Netanyahu, as a religious rabbi, there was such a picture of him like that, right? You would know. He would go down and find his best friend's son who went off the derech just to bring him back to Kedusha. You would think it's senile, right? That's nothing compared to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi going to find. You think he had nothing better to do than to go do kiruv right now? He was writing the Mishnayot. All the Torah Shebaal Peh was based on him. Are you nuts? He's going to go down and find a kid right now that's in the Shuk Shel Zonot. Chas v'shalom, Shuk Shel Zebras, we should say, for Rosh Hashanah, to keep our mouth extra clean. So you know what he said? I'm going to go for my best friend's son. He went over there, he found it. He said, you want to be a rabbi? Just like that. You want to be a rabbi? Back then, people used to actually respect rabbis. He said, what do you mean? What's in it for me? He's like, I'm going to give you a glima shel zahav. You ever see Ovadia Yosef's jomeh with the golden embroideries? I'm going to put that on for you. People are going to respect you. Mitoch shelo lishma, ba lishma. He said, okay. He got two other Tanaim. He said, Rabbi. That's it. Didn't know nothing, this guy. He didn't even charge him. He just gave it to him like that. Back then, it didn't work like today. You had to learn, take a test. That's good, by the way. Back then, as long as he vouches for you and he gives you smicha, you had smicha. Yeah, he became a rabbi, and he grew from that. And you know how he grew from? From the busha. You know what the busha is? Shame. From the shame, because then he wanted to go off the derech again. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said, no, b'chiyat. I gave you the jomeh, I gave you this, I gave you that, I gave you the koach. You're going to go right now and go off the derech? It's lo yafeh. It's not nice. You have any busha? He stayed at that, and he became Rabbi Yosei ben Rabbi Elazar. You mentioned it many times in the Gemara, you guys just don't know about it. But when they came time to bury him, the cave didn't let him come inside next to his father. It didn't let him. Why? There is a difference between tzaddik and tzaddik, but he's a Baal Tshuva. Isn't Baal Tshuva in the greatest place in heaven?
Yeah.
Except for one guy.
What's the exception?
A guy who suffers in his life. A person who goes to Yisurim is even higher than a Baal Tshuva. Why? You guys remember the story of Eov? Tzaddik, he was the big stuff. Satan said, I'm going to test him. What happened to Eov at the end? Satan said, I'm going to test him. Hashem said, go ahead, but be careful, don't kill him. A regular guy reads the story, he says, what is this over here? You're playing a game with people's lives? That's not the point of our conversation. Just making you guys think of it. Satan goes down, tests him. What does Eov do? He doesn't complain yet. When does Eov start complaining and questioning God? Once he gets suffering. Once he gets sick. His kids died? He didn't complain. Lost his money? Didn't complain. But once he started to get sick, it says, Al Besaro, he started to feel the boils. Then, Vayivarech et Hashem. Yivarech v'lashon nikiyah. Yivarech means he started to say, Efo Hashem? Where is God? All my life I never even looked at a woman in my life. Why is Hashem doing this to me? Until Hashem had to come out of the Sa'ara min Hashamayim and said, Eov, where were you when I created the world? Ari says, you know what he was telling him? Do you know your Gilgul? He said, no, you're terach. Now shut your mouth. How is that? You think you're a tzaddik, you think that you're terach. Now shh. And all what Eov went through that 1 year is because he used to sleep with his wife when she was in Nida. It's not even the Avodah Zarah or all the other millions of things terach did. That was just for Nida. Sometimes it shakes me to my core, the whole thing with Nida. I'm not going to chas shalom laugh at over chas shalom, but sometimes just the idea of Hilchot Nida makes me crazy. Because sometimes I speak to people, I'm like, keep Harta Mishpacha, go to the mikveh. Mikveh is dirty. I can't wait for 7 days. I can't wait for 11 days. I can't wait for 12 days. I said, did you try it? Harta Mishpacha. I was thinking about this today. I, Baruch Hashem, I have the zechut to be teaching in a yeshiva for close to 10 years, maybe even more. I said, so many kids go to yeshiva. Sometimes I see all the statuses of people yeshiva. Be'emet, how come be'emet, only out of all those yeshiva kids, only one comes out of Moreh Hora'ah? People go to medical school, the whole class, most of the class, they graduate to become doctors. Plenty of doctors out there, right? How long does it take you to find a rabbi to answer your halachic questions? And then when you ask him a question, sometimes he doesn't know. How long? And he might fake it, by the way. He'll be like, I think it's okay, mutar. And how long does it take to find a rabbi? They say, listen, I don't know. I gotta ask the one above. Yeah, and then it's even rarer to find the one above say, I don't know. I had this case not long ago. Case like that. But how come by people who go to yeshiva? A yeshiva class starts with 10, 20, 30 kids. Every year, 10, 20, 30 kids. How come at the end of the day, it's so rare to find one kid that comes out of Moreh Hora'ah?
There's suffering involved.
What suffering? They all went through the same environmental situation.
You have to have as a parent, you have to have a zechut to have a child.
That's what I'm asking. What's that zechut? The Gemara says 100 go in, one comes out. What? Why? You have, for example, you doctor, right? You have class of pharmacists, you have class of lawyers, class of accountants. They go in 500 in a class. They come out maybe 350 all graduate, and each one is dumber than a donkey. But they all graduate. Somehow they find the Levi Zilah and they come out like this, come out like that. They find this way, that way. They all graduate. How come by Talmidei Chachamim it's not like that? When I figured this out that it was a real problem, when I was in Kotel, Rabbi Babai, I don't know if he wants to be telling the story, but it's not going to get to him anyways. One time we were sitting out with Rabbi Babai. He used to come to us once a week in the Kotel. So Rabbi Babai comes to me, and it was his first or second time visiting Shari Tzion, the yeshiva. And he comes to me and he says, I don't see faces of Talmidei Chachamim over there. I asked him, what do you mean? He said, certainly yeshiva. He said, the nejni, the busha, I don't know how to say it, not the sincerity, the ambiance. A Talmid Chacham has a certain ambiance to him. A certain tzniut to him he has. Not everybody has that tzniut. He's like, I didn't see it anywhere. And that's where it hit me the first time, what the Gemara said. 1,000 come in to learn Chumash. 100 go to Mishnah. 10 go to learn Gemara. 1 comes out of Moreh Halacha. It's not allowed to come out. You know why that is, guys? Everybody goes through the same system. But it's not about what you learn. It's about the purity of the neshama. And that purity of the neshama comes from Taharat HaMishpacha. Comes from the purity of the parents. Not just how they raised them. Sometimes you could find a kid that grew up in the worst house. In the worst house. But yet he comes out, maybe not a Moreh Hora'ah, but he comes out with Yirat Shamayim. How come that is, guys? But sometimes you can find a kid that grew up with all the Elachot, Shiva Nekiyim, and he comes out completely, I don't know, off the derech. Why is that? Hashem is midagdeg bechut ha'se'ara. He sees what the neshama needs, he sees what the neshama doesn't need, and he sees what the neshama could get and what he cannot get. When a person doesn't keep Taharat HaMishpacha, it ruins the neshamot of the child. The Gemara says it, the Rashba says it, it's in the Poskim. Hilchot Nida is one of the major things. To the point where in Sefer Likutim, Parashat Bereshit says, so what does it mean that Nachash came onto Chava? That Chava, Eve, became a Nida. And Adam was with Chava while she was a Nida, and she had a baby. Who was that? Cain. And since he came from blood, he spilled blood, the blood of his brother. To that extent. You guys understand how far Tata Mishpacha goes? And today people don't dip in rivers. They don't dip in rivers like they used to do. Back then they used to dip in rivers. You know how cold a river is? In the winter?
In the dark.
In the dark?
Ice water.
Ice water? Not so much fun. Not fun. I once dipped in a cold mikveh. I don't ever want to dip in a cold mikveh again. It was not nice. Colder than the Ari. It's not colder than the Baal Shem Tov.
Yeah.
I once dipped in, there was icicles on top of the water. We were in Tannersville one Shabbat, and I needed to go to mikveh before Shabbat. It's a chiyuv. It's a chiyuv. We went to the mikveh, and the mikveh guy, there was cobwebs and spider webs all over the place. In Tannersville. The water wasn't green. It was already getting yellow. But I had to dip one dip. And there was icicles on top of the water. Like they were, I don't know. I looked at me. I don't know. I had to dip one time. You know what ice is? It's like you were dip in ice.
Was it a cave or was it?
No, it wasn't a cave. They just don't take care of it over there. You know, it's upstate New York. It gets freezing cold over there. The pipes all freeze. Everything gets frozen over there. The water they leave like this all winter. What do you think is gonna happen? No insulation, no nothing over there. It's not like over here, everybody over here gets insulation, foam insulation, noise cancellation. It's not like that. Over there, there's no noise cancellation, no foam, nothing. You build it with bricks and that's it. A couple of pipes inside. How much we have to be so happy to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what we have and what we're doing. And this year, Baruch Hashem, I say Baruch Hashem, it was such a year of dinim kashim. I just heard of somebody, a young woman, not even 45 years old, she might have ovarian cancer. So you guys don't hear these stories because you guys are not with the Kal, you're with your own people. I just heard of a case like this. Normal person. Like this kind of case is like so old, like Chas v'Shalom, person's life could go in 1 second. I always say one thing and people ask me, what should I do before Rosh Hashanah? I try to do a million things. Tikkunei Zohar finish, fast, this, that. Sometimes I don't have the power, you know? Sometimes I really don't have that power. Like right now, I'm starting to feel my left eye is starting to twitch. You know? You think it's easy waking up 5:45, 6 o'clock to selichot every morning? Back then, it used to be a thing. To shower 6 kids in one hand, prepare for a shiur in a second. It's a big. You need a lot of. You know what you need? You need will. You need a lot of will. To be married, you need will. To be a boss, you need will. You need to have ratzon to do all this. Desire, not to give up. You need grit. The grit to go all the way. It's hard. It's tough. But you know what? If we don't have that will, then Hashem doesn't need us in this world anymore. You know, He's going to tell us, okay, you want to be fired? You want to quit? Okay, but then you're not going to be here anymore. So we need the will. But, you know, Hashem could change our life in 1 second. So don't ever complain what you have in life. You have health, you have a family, you have a kid, you have a community, you have somewhere to help. Some people don't have these things. They wake up every morning, they don't even know it. Every day they go to a new Bet HaKnesset. You know what kind of koch is? You wake up every morning, you see the same person, you joke with him after Shacharit. You know, I told you guys, the study says people who wake up in the morning to Shacharit, they have less cardiac problems than other people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's statistically proven. How? He's waking up early in the morning, he's getting less sleep. You know why? Because he has simcha in his life. That a little bit of simcha pushes away a lot of darkness. Okay? So Rosh Hashanah is coming. What are we supposed to... We're supposed to take upon ourselves a mitzvah, guys. What mitzvah are we going to take upon ourselves this year? Seriously, let's take upon ourselves a mitzvah. What mitzvah are we going to take upon ourselves? Taharat Mishpacha is a 100%. You have to be, you know, I say people who keep Taharat Mishpacha are the real warriors. Single guy thinks they're warriors. The single guys. Why? I keep my brit, I keep my this, I keep my that, I don't do nothing. I said, are you crazy? You know what it is? A guy's wife gives birth 3 months. She's midamem dam nida.
And she's next to you.
And she's next to you 24/7. You know what kind of test that is? That's a warrior.
That's a real ice bucket challenge.
That's a real ice. 3 months is not that's some crazy ice bucket challenge. That's a real warrior. And this guy's telling me over here, I'm a tzaddik yesod olam. Now he is. I'm not saying that he is. He is. Lo tzitz. But at the same time, those guys who have the ta'ava in front of them all the time, and we're not over here, Baba Sali, who he says, Libi halal bikirbi. We're regular folk over here. Just because we speak nice doesn't mean we're all tzaddik yesod olams over here. We all have ta'avot and yes halas. But those guys are the real warriors. To see such a thing every day and say to themselves, I'm not going to be over. I know people who are over avot nida. I get calls every day. Rabbi, I couldn't hold myself. It was too long. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I couldn't do it. I said, what, she didn't say anything to you? She said, listen, women can be easily persuaded. That's true. Gemara says, Nashim da'atan kala. Understand? And a guy who holds himself, I give him kudos. He's zocheh. He's zocheh to shomer his einayim, even though he has a big thing. And a guy who has a business and he's able to hold himself not to do levid yadah, I give him super kudos. Sometimes it's so easy. What holds you? Only one thing. Yirat Shamayim, that's it. Nothing else. Nothing else could hold you back. Not the government, nothing. Just Yirat Shamayim. That's the only thing that holds a person's back. You know somebody's watching you. Not Big Brother, Hashem. Yeah, the boss. The boss is watching you, right? 100%. Okay? Now, I want to tell you guys Kavanah before we call it a night. First of all, what Kabbalah we're going to take upon ourselves this year? What Kabbalah? What are we going to take upon ourselves this year, guys?
Do a siyum.
Siyum Masechet?
Why not?
We have to do a Siyum Masechet. That's a Thursday night, guys. I'm talking about to everybody who's watching over here. What are we taking upon ourselves this year? What up to page? Page 17 we're up? No, we're up to page 17? 17b, right? Well, we have another about 50 pages left. So we got to go 2 pages a week now. Okay. But what about us? Everybody else, what mitzvah are we going to take upon ourselves? How about a major challenge?
Learning Torah hour a day.
An hour a day keeps the doctor away? Okay, but you got to learn Torah 2 hours a day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the night. I want to suggest you guys something else. It's a hard one, but it's an easy one. How is that? Give me a siddur, please. Give me the white one. Yeah, the white siddur. Give me. Yeah. I want to read you a Pirkei Avot. Some of you guys already know where I'm going with this. Because I've been hinting it the whole year. But only those who are following know. So we have a rabbi, his name is Shimon HaTzadik. He was the last of the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. He says the world stands on 3 things. On Torah, Avodah, that's prayer. Prayer is called Avodah in the Torah's vernacular. And the last thing is Gemilut Chesed. Okay, very nice. Chesed, Givura, Tiferet. Very nice. Chesed is what? Gemilut Chasadim. That's the right column. Avodah is Gvura. It's going to be the left column. And Gemilut Chasadim is going to be the middle column. Okay? Yafeh Me'od, 3-system column. We've heard it here before. Yeah, Torah is going to be Tiferet. Right? So, very nice. Okay, we heard it. Antignos, Ish Socho. This is what I want to get to. Antignos, the man of Sochos. First of all, his name is Antignos. Just that name has to catch your eye. Right? He was named after a Greek. Already in his time, people were already becoming Greek. Greekified. Hellenistic. Antignos says, and this really is the true meaning of the whole Torah. He got the Torah from Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik was a big rabbi. 40 years he was rabbi. He was the leader of the Jewish people. Not one time did the western light in the menorah ever die out. They would put oil on the menorah. The western lamp, when he would light the menorah, it never died out. For 40 years. He used to light the menorah.
40 years Hanukkah?
Huh? No. Well, yeah, technically speaking. It was greater than Hanukkah, if you ask me. 40 years, one lamp never. No, he would take it off because the mitzvah was to relight it. But every time he would put the light, everything would die. He would come. There was always the Western light, Western lamp lighting. He would turn it off then, yeah. Because it's the mitzvah, mitzvah migdash. He had to, leak it there again. But the point, but for 40 years, the same light never ever died. You would think one time it would die out. He puts the same oil, the same wicks and everything. But that light never died out. For 40 years. He was Kohen Gadol. For 40 years, he was Kohen Gadol. You know, in Yom Kippur, they would throw the goat off the La'azazel, and then they would tie a string on the parochet. Right? Because if the string would turn white, miraculously it would turn white. That means that year, salachti kidvarecha. If the string would stay red, it was a sign, lo salachti kidvarecha.
Communal.
Right? It was a communal thing. Not a private thing, right? 40 years he was Kohen Gadol, the string always would miraculously on Yom Kippur turn white. In front of everybody. Not in front of me and you. In front of everyone. I guess he was big shishka over here. Zelo pashut. 40 years Kohen Gadol. And the year that he died the day after Sukkot, the day after Simchat Torah, I believe. He said, I know I'm going to die this year. The Gemara says, how did he know? He said every year he would walk inside Kodesh HaKodashim, he would see somebody in white come in with him and come out with him. That year somebody in black went in with him and didn't come out with him. So he knew it was a siman. The Gemara Masechet Yoma says that he was going to die that year. So he knew he was going to die. After he died, the Jews went on a very big spiral down. Right? His two sons fought over the Kohenship, and then after that it's history. The Greeks came in, the Hellenists came in, and the Erev Rav till today put their shorish inside of us. So Antignos was his student, and he got Torah from him. We don't know if he was a Kohen, but we do know he was a great man because he was the leader by himself. Usually after him, it were two leaders. He was a single leader. And he says like this, don't be like a servant that serves the master to get a reward. Serve him because he says it. L'shem yichud kuchav rechush chidei. And what is the precursor to that? What do you need to have that? Yehi mora shamayim alechem. May the fear of heaven be always on you. It's a very strong sentence, and it's the beginning of Perkei Avot, but that practically sums up the whole Torah. What our issue has been for the last 2,000 years. Yirat Shamayim, not to get something in return. That means if we do get something in return, it's only for one reason, to keep on doing it. To keep on doing it. If we serve Hashem, if we go to Rosh Hashanah, and the Zohar calls us klavim, Tikkunei Zohar, he says we're like klavim. We say, how does a dog say? He barks, right? Zohar says, have, give me. Give me mizoneh, give me chaye, give me revichei, give me, just give me. Zohar says you're a kelef. The Zohar says when you pray to Hashem, pray to Him specifically. Say to Hashem, give me, so I could use it for you. Give me a house, so I could invite guests. Give me a house, so I could build a sukkah. Give me money, so I could buy tefillin. Give me kids, so I could raise them in your path. Give me a wife, so I could be Mikayim the Mitzvah prayer and fill your world with tzaddikim. Give me for you. Give me for you. The Zohar says this is the main point of the whole Torah. The Zohar agrees with Antignos Ish Socho. So when we're going to get to Tefillah ala Parnasa, and we're going to get to all these kavod, Zochreinu lechayim, melech hafetz b'chayim. Guys, look at the word. Zochreinu lechayim, remember us to life. Melech, the king, shechafetz b'chayim, that wants to give us life. Why does he want to give us life? Lemancha Elohim chayim. For your sake. If you don't ever, this is probably the first time in your life you guys ever listen to the real translation of these words. You guys hear what he just said? And you're saying it's for Aseret Yemei Teshuvah. Let me read it to you again. Zochreinu lechayim, remember us to life. Melech hafetz b'chayim, the king who wants life. Kotveinu b'sefer chayim, write us in the book of life. Lema'anach Elohim chayim, for your sake, the living God. What should you really have said? according to the Kritmachs.
For
our sake! No, you didn't read Pirkei Avot. You didn't read Pirkei Avot. Antignos Isocho says, don't serve him for yourself because you're not here for yourself. You're here for him. Lema'anach Elohim Chaim. Now, how does that work if he's a perfect God? Okay, open up an Otrot Chaim and an Etza Chaim. We'll start talking about it. How does it actually work over here? Who are you and where you made out of? But what is all this game for? I'm just calling it a game for lack of a better word. What is this whole 6,000 years for? Lema'anach Elohim Chaim. Letaken olam b'malchut Shaddai. He's Elohim Chaim. He's Elohim Chaim. Why do we call him a living God? Because all the other gods are dead. Yoshka is dead. Muhammad is dead. Everybody is dead. Hashem is living. That means he's here with us. He's alive. He's the real life. He's the real Chaim. And he wants us to live in this world for him. I'll tell you a story and I'm going to end with this. I know we were going to do Kavanot and everything, but sometimes Musar is more important than Kavanot. It says there was a very big rabbi called Bala Sulam. Bala Sulam. Alright? He was a big rabbi in Kabbalah, in Zohar especially. He made a translation on the whole Zohar. Story go. He was a Belzer Chassid in Europe. It was the dawn of the Holocaust. The dawn of the Holocaust. We're talking about late 1920s. Late 1920s, 1930s. And he already saw that, because you remember, Yamach Shemo V'Zichro was in power 10 years before. So already the rhetoric of anti-Semitism was already in the air for 10 years. Don't think he just woke up one day and be like, let's send them to concentration camps. No. It was a rhetoric that was going on for 10 years. They were blaming the Jews. It was a whole thing. The Dreyfus affair, right? Kristallnacht was already at the end, right? The Dreyfus affair was a big thing. You know, they blamed the Jewish pilot, sergeant or whatever he was, that he was the one who was selling secrets to the Germans. He was French. The Zola, that was a whole big thing. Now, anybody who knows a little bit Jewish history the last 100 years knows that it wasn't something that grew up in one day. It was something that was cooking from World War I. Okay? So this rabbi, the Bala Sulam, he was a Belzer Chassid, and he came to he were 3 friends apparently, 4 friends, and they were all big Talmidei Chachamim. And they got to a very big spiritual state, and they went to their Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, do you guys have anything left to give? Anything left to do? And all the friends said, no, we reached our peak. We reached our cap, we reached our peak. We did whatever we had to do. Only he, the Bala Sulam, said, I still have work to do. All of them ended up staying in Europe and dying. Only he ended up in Eretz Yisrael. And in Eretz Yisrael, he actually realized his true goal, which was to write a Pirush on the whole Zohar HaKadosh. If a person says, I just want to be on vacation my whole life. I want to be on vacation. I'm done with life. Don't ever, even if you're thinking that, don't ever say those words. Because if you want to be on vacation, there's a better place to be on vacation. You ever see grandmas? Grandmas. Babulas. When they take care of their grandkids, right? They hate it, but it gives them life. Once they stop, what happens to them?
They sign off.
They sign off. They're not gonna, you know why? It's not some kind of secret. When you have something to do in life, then it gives you energy. But in spirituality, it's deeper. If you have more work to give to Am Yisrael, Hashem will keep you here. Rav Ovadia Yosef had until 90, 95 years old. Right? Some people don't come to this world for themselves. They come for one specific person, like the Ari HaKadosh. When he saw his job was done, he left. 38 years old. Always, many big tzaddikim. The Rashash. Never ever say to Hashem, my job is done. Always say to Hashem, I have more work to do. Yeah, you might get less sleep, you might get less this and that, but you have more work to do, you're going to get more life. Because Zochreinu Lechayim. Why? At the end, Lema'anach Elohim Chayim. For your sake, Hashem. It's a relationship over here. Am Yisrael, Torah, Kucha, B'richu, Chadkun, we're all one. God, the Jews, and the Torah, we're all one. So let's realize our full fruition. When we take upon ourselves a mitzvah this year, you don't have to be a physical mitzvah. It could be an ideology. I'm going to do mitzvot this year, not to get anything in return, but L'shem Yichud Kudsha B'richu Shchinteh. That's it. That's the mitzvah I take upon myself this year. And you're going to see, you're going to do that, everything else is going to fall into place. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Amen.